This is the history of election mischief in Kenya, from Lolongo system to vote buying. Once upon a time, each candidate at the general election was assigned his own ballot box. It is the ballot papers inside your box that determined the poll outcome. The ballot box was then identified with your campaign photo, and in some cases, if you have no agents, the photo and the ballot box could disappear. In some cases, some ballot boxes disappeared forever. There was a time we could also post our marked ballot papers to the returning officer. Welcome to the history of Kenya's dalliance with rigging, which is as old as the independent nation state. Before we lost trust in ourselves, ballot papers used to be printed by the government printer right there along Haile Selassie Avenue. Right now, simply because politicians cannot trust any local firm to print the ballot papers, least of all the government printer, we continue to throw away our dollars to foreign printers. It is the cost we continue to pay. The history of our democracy sounds like a thriller. If you can dig into the rigging practices that have happened over the years. In the 1963 general election, for instance, one of the most outstanding rigging practices was to make sure that the candidates not in the government good books did not know the election symbols until it was too late to do any meaningful campaigns. By then, the elections were conducted by the Supervisor of Elections, which was the department within the Attorney General's chamber. The work of picking, approving, and assigning symbols had been left to the returning officers, who were to send them to the Supervisor of Elections in Nairobi. It happened that the returning officers were district commissioners, and they could frustrate any perceived anti-government candidate. What's the history of printing posters? In 1974, when the election laws were being amended, Mr. Martin Shikoku, the then Butere MP, recalled that happened in 1963. He said, and I quote, "Some of us did not know what our symbols were until the last day. After you have known what your symbol is, you rush to the press. We should all understand that the press does not belong to us. Since I had not known what my symbol was in good time, my opponent used the opportunity to tell the people I was not standing. He had been informed what his symbol was a week earlier than me." End of quote. The next phase of mischief was the 1969 general election, when each candidate had his own ballot box. As the late J.M. Kariuki, the Nyandarua North MP, complained in 1974, ahead of the general election, the government did not tell the candidates how this would work. And I quote him, "They never let us know how the ballot box could be. They never indicated to the public that there could be individual boxes. So what happened? Anybody could carry as many votes as he could in his pocket and put them in the ballot box. So, how did people even access the extra ballot papers? This is exactly what happened. Those candidates who could access the government printer were said to have received extra ballot booklets, and they used them to stuff in their boxes. The Laikipia East MP G.G. Kariuki recalled the rigging drama that was witnessed in the 1969 general election. And I quote him, "They just went and took these ballot papers from the government printer and then put them in ballot boxes. This was a very serious matter." End of quote. As Attorney General Charles Njonjo later admitted, these had created room for mischief, and to cure this, we started having a single ballot paper and separate ballot boxes for every position. Njonjo said while moving the bill, and I quote him, "If a person steals that box, he will be stealing votes of all the candidates." End of quote. It was Mr. Njonjo who proposed that the secret voting meant that you are not supposed to see the voter casting his vote. This had always created room for mischief in case somebody wants to introduce more ballot papers. These days, only the marking is done in private, but the actual balloting is done in the open. Then Vice President the late Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi also offered a similar reason on why Kenya should abandon the individualized ballot box, and he said, and I quote him, "If we shall have one ballot for all candidates, then it will be difficult for somebody to destroy one particular ballot box so that he could ruin a particular candidate. It will be difficult even for the civil servant to destroy one ballot box because there will be no favoritism for any one candidate." The other problem with the 1969 general elections, which had followed the banning of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga's Kenya's People's Union Party, was that all campaign rallies were organized by the KANU party and the candidates had to wait for the party to do so. Also, rival candidates used to hold joint rallies, since campaign rallies were either organized by the government or by the party. If there was any difference, a candidate could speak and then disrupt the meeting. Once Charles Rubia, while vying for Starehe constituency, shot in the air to end the meeting before his rival spoke. After 1969, it was discovered that the storage of ballot boxes was crucial. It was discovered in the various petitions filed that the ballot boxes had been interfered with after the counting. Some of the ballot boxes disappeared, and courts were unable in some cases to recount the votes after boxes went missing. In 1974, it was suggested that agents can accompany their candidates to the counting halls and that boxes get sealed after counting. In those days, all ballots were taken to a central location for counting. During this sojourn, ballots could be stuffed or boxes even thrown away. In 1988, President Moi introduced the queue voting, the Mlolongo system, where people lined up behind their favorite candidate. Those who received over 70% were deemed elected unopposed. The transparent boxes were introduced in the 2002 general election after fears that the opaque boxes were not conducive for free and fair balloting. It was also in 2002 that it was agreed that ballot papers be counted at the polling station rather than a central local station. A suggestion was further made in Parliament that the Electoral Commission starts printing the symbols in color. This suggestion was made by David Musila on October 22nd of 2002. It has been a long walk of trial and error plus some mischief. And do you know that in 1963, the salary of an MP was only 800 shillings per month? Well, now you know.